We've also got some new polling out just an hour ago. It shows how Americans feel about the president's decision to attack those nuclear sites in Iran. So here's what we know. 56% of Americans surveyed here disapprove of the military action in Iran, while 44% approve it. When asked if they think the strikes will make Iran more of a threat to the U.S. or less, more than half said more. Now, President Trump has announced a ceasefire between Israel and Iran, of course, but some Americans are skeptical about the president's motivations.
I think it's important to remember that there has been a repeated pattern of using diplomacy and negotiations to try to catch Iran off guard and launch sneak attacks on Iran.
Isaac Dever, Chuck Brocha, and Ashley Davis are joining me again. I'm kind of cautiously reading these numbers because things have just moved so quickly since the initial strikes, but I always look at the number of independents, and I was surprised there to see that number be 60% over 40. You're nodding.
Yeah, because that's the most important piece. We expect Democrats and Republicans to run to their corner no matter almost what the issue is. Overall, in all the polling I've ever done, most folks are against war, against sending troops to war. But what's the independent number? Because as we move into the midterms, there's only a small group of people. It's not a presidential election, and it's those most engaged, and it's those independents in swing districts that'll have the biggest impact.
What do you see in this?
You see that there is not an appetite for foreign engagements, and that includes, I think, yes, look at the independents, but even among Republicans, there is a split that's there. We don't know given how quickly things are moving, and also given how for so many issues, the Republican base and Republican officials just snap back into whatever Donald Trump is saying to do, and with no opposition in Congress coming, whether that will hold. But it does show that there is an issue here of people not wanting this to happen, even as a lot of people who are thinking seriously about what's going on in Iran think that stopping Iran from having a nuclear weapon.
And what happens next is obviously going to color this view. You know, when we're looking at the numbers, do you trust Trump to make the right decisions on use of force in Iran? Again, 55% no. That's very different from just, are these strikes okay or not? Ashley, what do you hear in that doubt?
Well, first I want to say, and I should have said this at the beginning, that we should be thanking our United States military for what they did. What was accomplished with no lives lost was an amazing feat. In my lifetime, Iran and the nuclear weapons have always been a horrible threat to this country, and they support terrorists more than any other country in the world. So I think we can't lose sight of that. I do think that people are tired of war, obviously, and the same people on the Democrat side that are saying we shouldn't do Iran, then we probably shouldn't do Ukraine either. I mean, it's the same argument. And so there is if this ends, like you say, and we're not in this for another year or 2 years or even 6 months, what was accomplished by most likely destroying at least most of their nuclear capability is a win.
And what happens if there's some sort of retaliation, or that would change all this, and hopefully nothing like that will happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. And if we have to send troops and all of that, is a whole different story.
Israel's government says it has now agreed to a ceasefire with Iran, and Iranian media also reporting that a ceasefire has begun. But the Israel Defense Forces accusing Tehran of a ceasefire violation already, saying they have intercepted 2 missiles launched from Iran. The Israeli defense minister vowing to, quote, respond with force. But a senior security official in Iran tells CNN no missiles have been fired at the enemy, as he describes them so far. Well, US President Donald Trump urging both sides to stick to this ceasefire, this truce, saying, please do not violate it, exclamation mark. Well, a new CNN poll shows US airstrikes against Iran over the weekend are broadly unpopular. 44% of respondents say they approve, 56% disapprove. Nearly 6 in 10 respondents say they fear the strikes will increase the Iranian threat to the United States. Large majorities of independents and Democrats disapprove of the US military action, while 82% of Republicans approve. Let's get more now from Jennifer Kavanagh. She is a senior fellow and director of military analysis at Defense Priorities. She joins me now live from Washington. Just out of interest, what do you make of that polling, that snap polling? After all those strikes, only Sunday this week, it is now Tuesday.
Well, I don't find them that surprising. There really is not an appetite in the United States for another adventure in the Middle East. People are tired of foreign wars, especially after Iraq and Afghanistan proved to be quite disastrous and are very broadly unpopular across the Republican and the Democratic Party. So I'm not that surprised that another use of military force would be unpopular and probably spark worries among a lot of voters that this is just the start of another long-term campaign in the region.
You have deep insight into military strategy. So let's just take a step back here and consider the following. Donald Trump has taken credit overnight regional time, for this ceasefire, what he calls the end to this 12-day war. We have seen certainly some fragility, if not violation, of that very ceasefire in the past hours or so. As you assess what you see going on and strategy from both sides, what's your snap assessment?
Well, it's not uncommon for take a little bit of time for a ceasefire to take hold, for hostilities.
I don't think so, but I'm not happy that Israel's going out now. There was one rocket that I guess was fired overboard. It was after the time limit, and it missed its target. And now Israel's going out. These guys got to calm down. Ridiculous. I didn't like plenty of things I saw yesterday. I didn't like the fact that Israel unloaded right after we made the deal. They didn't have to unload. And I didn't like the fact that the retaliation was very strong. But in all fairness, Israel unloaded a lot. And now I hear Israel just went out because they felt it was violated by one rocket that didn't land anywhere. That's not what we want, I'll tell you. And I'm telling you, I'm not happy about that, Israel, either. All I do is play both sides. I'm going now, as you know, to NATO. Some of you are going with me, and I think it's going to be successful. We'll see. I'll let you know.
Do you believe that Iran is still committed to peace?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it, too.
Are you questioning if Israel is committed?
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I'd never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
The president does not know. The president of the United States does not know if this ceasefire is still in effect. That's where we are this morning. He thinks both sides have violated it. And you heard him at the end there, just words of really, I think, frustration with both Israel and Iran with what's taken place since the president announced this deal.
Saying they don't know what they're doing and saying these guys have got to calm down. It's ridiculous. We're going to be replaying that quite a lot today and waiting for more reaction now from the region. Let's bring in our team coverage on this. We have CNN's Elena Treen live for us from the White House. Jeremy Diamond standing by in Israel. Fred Pleitgen also in Tehran for us this morning. Elena, first to you. This is some very important perspective coming from President Trump this morning.
That's exactly right. And I was just outside on the South Lawn with the president as he was speaking with us this morning before he departed on Marine One. Look, he is very, very frustrated and essentially downright angry. I have to argue. I mean, I've spent a lot of time with President Donald Trump. This is one of the most visibly angry times I have seen him. And it's clear that he's angry with both countries, both Israel and Iran. We asked him, does he believe the ceasefire is going to hold after we saw kind of these sharp, the missile potentially fired from Iran, but then also the sharp language from the Israel foreign minister saying that he wants to retaliate with full force. The president said he does believe and he hopes that it will hold, but then he said as soon as he finished talking with us, he was going to make some calls and try to stop it. That was a direct quote. He said, I'm going to try to stop it as soon as I finish speaking with you all. But what he seemed to be very angry with as well is really Israel. I mean, he often tries to use, much more positive, optimistic language, favorable language when it comes to Israel, recognizing that they are one of the United States' strongest allies. But it is clear that he is very unhappy with how they have been acting in light of the news of this ceasefire. He said that perhaps Iran fired a stray missile, that maybe it didn't land, and he doesn't like that Israel was saying that they plan to retaliate with full force. And then he does something, he does like to curse. We know this president has done it multiple times, I know, on the campaign trail over the past year or so, but he cursed again, and it was his parting language to us. He said, he was asked, do you think Israel wants peace? And he said these two countries have been fighting for so long together that they, quote, don't know what the F they're doing. And so, again, he is very frustrated with how this is all unfolding. It's very unclear as of now where this ceasefire stands, if it will be able to hold. But the president made very clear that he's going to be making calls to both countries, trying to get a sense of how they can try and figure this out and try to salvage this deal that I know last night he was celebrating along with all of his top advisors here at the White House.
Yeah, it can't not be overstated how much things have changed yet again in just a matter of hours with regard to this. And as you said, the president said as soon as he moved away from reporters and got on Marine One, he was going to start making calls. So a lot more to come. Elena Trina at the White House. Thank you so much, Elena. Stay close.
And just remember how we got to this place. The president announced a ceasefire had been brokered between Israel and Iran. Then as soon as the announcement was made, as the president said, Israel increased its attacks on Tehran. A lot of attacks overnight. Tehran firing back at Israel, some killed in Israel. And then after the deadline expired, another exchange there.
I think a lot of people understand that what Trump did was illegal, right? I think, and you've certainly seen officials in other countries. I know judges in other countries are going to say this, right? And I know that the defender of the French system, right, who is judging Trump, Macron, the president of that country is saying, under our understanding, we're adjudicating that it's illegal. And I know that Canada knows that. Carney's too afraid to say it, but he knows that what Trump did was illegal. And it's unpopular. And it's unpopular because people understand that Trump violated the process by which you do it. There are, look, I don't like it, but there are processes by which the United States can make a boneheaded decision to declare a war in a legal capacity that is nonetheless stupid. But with Iraq, which was a mistake, mind you, definitely, and Afghanistan too, probably, right? They had votes. They voted on it in Congress. There was a majority of people in both houses and some bipartisan support for those wars. And so for better or worse, there was Bush lied, people died, but he got congressional approval partially based on those lies, but the approval was nonetheless there. Trump did none of that. He still lied. Trump lied, people died, and people will continue to, but he didn't even get congressional approval. And Americans, again, they hate it because it's a direct rebuke of what Trump said during the election. They remember Iraq and Afghanistan, correctly so. They don't trust, probably don't trust any president, honestly, but especially Trump, to just do a quick operation and mission accomplished, right? And so this is what's going to happen. It's going to be found illegal. I put question marks because we don't, of course, know for sure, but I know that at least in some countries, they've already declared this illegal. France has done it. Other allies will do it. It's just the beginning.